let's fire off, because I want to share with you what was on my heart to share this morning. I know it's kind of last minute, but I'm excited just for the opportunity to walk you guys through something that changed my entire life. Whether we know it or not, and we talked in the beginning about the power of lack, right? And how lack actually creates desire in us, and that responding to that desire is what fuels our why. Every single person on this call is driven by something. That's the truth, right? We either want to, as we say on this list, give back to my family in such a way I want to create for the family that's to come, all these different things. But as we go through life, right, the picture of the why becomes a little bit smaller when the picture of the how and the what becomes a little bit bigger. I don't believe that most of us lose that why. And I believe that all of us have a why. And I'll break that down in a minute for you. But I believe that what happens is that the picture of the how and the what gets bigger. How am I going to do this while I'm facing these obstacles? How am I going to provide for these kids while I'm slow in my income? How am I, when the picture of the how and the what becomes bigger than the picture of the why, we sometimes feel like we lose that why and we end up going through the motions, but not actually making movements, right? We end up existing, but not living. We end up surviving, but not thriving. My goal today on this call is to help you guys to rejuvenate your why. I want to help you to rejuvenate your why. I want to help you to reconnect to that why so that you can reignite your fire and that you can reestablish your focus. And if you realize I'm using the prefix re, because I don't believe that we lose our power. I believe that what we lose is our perspective. Let me say it again. I don't believe that we always lose our power. I believe that what we lose is our perspective. Here's the first thing that you got to do if you're going to rejuvenate that why, or if you're going to get to the point where you have clarity, connection, and conviction to the why. The first thing we got to talk about is your desire. One of the interesting things that as I work through, like with leaders, I always say, man, does anybody here believe that you are born with the desire to lead? That people are born with the desire to lead? Anybody believe that? Yep, we got one hand. No. Okay. Two. Okay. I don't believe that we're born with the desire to lead. I believe that we're born with the desire to make an impact. Leadership is the responsibility that we inherit based on the magnitude of that desire. Let me say it again, that we have the desire to make an impact. Leadership is just a responsibility that we inherit based on the magnitude of that desire. Okay. So when we talk about rejuvenating the desire, what I'm really focused on is the desire for impact, because it's hard to have a desire to make impact when you ain't getting that direct deposit. It's hard to make a desire to impact when you're disappointed by the same people that you'll have to help to actually complete your mission and purpose. Come on, somebody. It's hard to have the desire to do when these different obstacles stand in your way. So I want us to just go through really quick, and I want us to be transparent about, what are some of the obstacles that you feel like you are having or that you've had that are really robbing you from the desire to make the impact that you want to make? Some people might say it's a lack of resources. Some people say, man, I just don't have the knowledge. I don't have the clarity. But let's talk really quick. What are some of the things that are holding you, that you believe is holding you back from making the impact that you desire to make?
Fear. I think one of them is big is fear of failing.
Solid. Fear of failing. So really quick, because most people, if we're honest with ourselves and we look through the foundational, really the truth of why we or what we're struggling with, to some degree, we can see a fear of failure. Here's where I want to go with this. It's important for us to define what failure really means. A lot of the times we have these words that control our lives, but we don't have a definition of what does it really mean to fail, right? So give me your definition around failure.
I guess not. For me, it'd probably be not living or not hitting the goals. I would say not meeting the expectations of myself or what my peers or what my family thinks I should be.
So good. So the definition of failure that you have is not hitting the goals or the desires or the things that your family think you should or that you think you should. Okay. But I want you to ask yourself something. What if your thinking is wrong? What if your family's thinking is wrong? I believe that a lot of times what we call failure is something that we're aiming for that was either too small or not the right thing or not the right time. There's three reasons sometimes that we run into things. It's too small. That we're going to argue that here in a minute. Some people are like, if I fail at it, it means that I was too small. Sometimes we go after something that we're already grown out of, or we're already grown past, but we're going after it because it's connected to a norm. It's what we have always done, right? And so we rather go after something that's more comfortable, if that makes sense, than something that's uncomfortable. But it's important for us to define failure. And the way you defined it was not accomplishing the thing or the goal. But a lot of times we don't think about the fact that what if the goal or the thing is wrong? What if it's too small? What if it's the wrong time? Here's where I'm going with this. If I sat here and told you that everything I was going after, I actually accomplished what it looked like, I would be lying to you. It never looks like what I think it was supposed to look like. So I learned to write my goals down with a pencil and not a pen. I learned that my goals become more of a compass that just gives me direction of where to shoot, but it doesn't become an absolute thing that I'm like, yes, when I accomplish that. Here's why. Because sometimes our goals are limitations on what we can actually achieve. If I ask you guys right now, how much money you want to make this year? 100K, 150, 250. Why that number? Like, where do we pull these numbers from? Versus saying, all right, if 250 is a benchmark, I already got the benchmark out the way. What I need to be asking myself now is, how do you accomplish that? And I fall more in love with the process. Like, the process becomes my goal versus this tangible number becoming the reason that's going to validate if I've achieved or if I've arrived. It's a perfect example in my life. Y'all, I've been trying to work on a six-pack for like the last year, right? But here's the thing that I do. I go to the gym for a week or two, and then I look in the mirror and I'm like, damn, it ain't happened yet, right? And then I go 3 weeks later and I look again and I'm like, damn, it ain't happened yet. But then I sort of ask myself, all right, are you eating right? Are you sleeping? Are you focused on dieting? Are you doing the crunches? Are you doing these things consistently? Because when I become more in love with the process and use the goal just as a benchmark, where I was aiming for 6, I now get 8. Does that make sense? So sometimes we use these words like failure and all these things, and we don't really take a step back to ask ourselves, yo, what is failure? We just defined it as not achieving the thing that we set out to achieve. But we very seldom sit back to say,